Welcome back to Talkin Wellness. We're so happy you're here joining us. If you are coming from, part 1 last week, we are so thankful that you're here for part 2. Last week, we talked about a little bit of the challenges that the Latin community and the Hispanic community is facing. Kayla was here with us. We kicked her out.
Look a little different this week.
We brought Kayla looks very different this week, as you can see. But we brought in Michael because I love talking with Michael about these type of topics, and he brings a really interesting perspective. Michael, audience, you already know Ed, Gigi. My name is Christian. Do you mind talking a little bit about you and your experience? Because you grew up as half Black and half Latino.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely grew up as a mutt. This is what I would call it. Someone that didn't know kind of what they were growing up. I guess that's my difference to people that are Latino or Hispanic. They know kind of that. Me, I didn't really know what I was growing up. I knew I had dark skin. I knew some people called me Black. I knew some people called me Spanish. I knew some people called me white. So that was definitely a very big confusion in part of my life. But it was something that I actually appreciated. And it's something that, looking back, I'm very grateful that I had that perspective, because I know a lot of people, when they're in that circumstance, find a lot of trouble figuring out who they are, you know? So for me, I'm very glad that I was a very oblivious kind of kid that just kind of did things and didn't really think about color and race and things like that. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely seen how it's played a part in my life. You know, I have most of my friends are South American, Spanish, because I did grow up playing soccer and doing stuff like that. So I have a lot of Spanish friends.
Very prevalent.
A lot of that culture is very prevalent in my life, but that doesn't mean that I'm not, you know, very big friends with a lot of white people and a lot of Black people. And, you know, I think it's very important to respect different cultures from different people.
Absolutely.
In general.
Correct.
So, yeah, I mean, I love my Hispanic, Latino ties. You know, I love being different instead of just like I'm from one country and this is who I am. So I love being the fact that I'm a mutt, because it allows me to experience different cultures. Although I may not be that specifically, it allows me to be like, I can open myself up to this because, you know, my grandpa or my grandma back in the day, she lived in Colombia or she lived in somewhere. So it gives me a chance to, you know, definitely be open to it.
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, if we didn't mention, we apologize. We are talking about Hispanic Heritage Month and Latin Heritage Month, because I want to use both, because both matter. But like I said, last week we talked about some of the challenges, but this week I want to talk about some of the strengths that the Latin and Hispanic communities kind of bring to the table a little bit, and things that I think we should be proud of. We're celebrating Heritage Month, right? Let's talk about some of those awesome things. I have a list here of a couple. If you guys can think of any else, please bring it to the table. I'd love to have a chat about it. The first one is familismo, which is the idea of strong family bonds. I would argue that's probably my favorite part of the Latin experience, is that I have yet to meet Latino. Well, that's not necessarily true, but a lot of Latinos that I know have very strong family bonds, right? Can you guys speak a little bit on that?
It's so funny you say that, because strong family bonds could be a good and a bad thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100% agree.
It's so funny you say that. And I've seen it on both aspects with I'm saying this because literally 80% of my friends are Spanish. Like, born in Colombia, moved here, first generation American kind of Spanish. So like all their family are traditional Spanish. You know, they grew up in very traditional and, you know, beginnings. So, you know, I have some friends that are, you know, their family's very understanding of American culture and very understanding of certain things and very, you know, I don't know what's the proper word. They're very just more understanding is the right word. Open-minded understanding. And then you have, you know, I have some friends that their parents are just very much more traditional, and like you said it plenty of times, machismo. And if they don't go upon a certain thing, then that's just not respected. Their parents will lose. So you'll lose the relationship.
We're talking about the negative things, right?
I wasn't, and I don't mean that to bring back a negative. I just think it's important to touch on it, because like, and that goes with every household. Yeah, because like,
give context. Yes,
you can have a very active parenthood, like they're for you all the time, but not in good ways, you know?
Correct.
And I say that point to say that, you know, having them in a good way, let's say I have like a lot of bottled energy and I have a lot of things that I need to get through, and my parents are there for me. It's very, 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 very helpful. But let's say if they weren't there for me, then it could be very detrimental to me. And that's kind of what I'm saying as far as like too contrarian of the
Well,
point.
you're saying you want your parents to be there to support you.
Exactly.
But not to take decision for you.
Exactly.
Okay,
And that's the thing.
correct.
That could be, there could be that level of
I
overbearingness
understand.
sometimes in
It's true.
situations.
That is
you know, and
true.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
But that's not just in the Hispanic community at
It's
all.
true.
You know?
It's
Right.
in general.
But
Right.
I've
in-
noticed it more
in-
specifically because of what you're
Yes.
saying. Spanish people tend to be closer.
Yes.
They just tend to be
That is-
closer.
that is true.
I've
Yeah.
been around white people, been around black people and families, and been around black people. And what we black people tend to do, we make fun of each other.
Mm-hmm.
What white people tend to do is they don't do that. And what Spanish people tend to do is they really build each other up. It's very different of cultures. It's just how it is.
Yes.
It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just how it is. You know.
Yes.
So it's interesting how that works.
Interesting.
If
Yeah.
we can use that strength, like a supportive strength, it's good.
Oh, absolutely.
But if we use our impose, decisions,
It could be
for
so
our
bad.
children.
And that you took my point and you ran with it and you made it. You made my point because and it's Chris says it all the time how strong Spanish culture is, and I 100% agree. I don't think there's many cultures really in the world that are as strong when they're there for each other. When they're there for each other and holding each other down. And I don't think there's many cultures that have that much pride
Yeah.
or celebration for each other.
To a degree where if, let's say, there isn't a family for a Latino person, we try to be there for that person. Like if it's Christmas
Yes.
time, and I know all cultures share this, but it's Christmas time, it's Thanksgiving time, and we got one person who doesn't have anybody home. You
We
bet your
invite
bottom dollar we're going to invite him to our cookouts.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're talking about the positive things that Latinos kind of bring to the table that more cultures can accept into their cultures too, right? Because I think it's a double way street. Like there's a lot of aspects about the black community that I think we should integrate into our culture, and a lot of aspects of the white community that I think we should integrate in the Asian community, and et cetera, et cetera. Because again, family can be a interpersonal thing, but I have always seen family as a social thing. Like if I consider you a close friend, you're family.
Yeah.
If like that for me is also family. Like it's not just strong bonds of like my mom, dad, and brother. It's strong bonds of like my best friend that I've been with for the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying? That kid in the street who doesn't have anything to eat, and I can be there for that person. That's why I call everybody brother. What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Like it's bro is used as a term to kind of just, it's in modern society, but I mean that. Hey, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Because maybe this is just the way I see the world, and some people see it differently, but I truly think that we need to start having this mentality where we're all family, and if we're all family, we all need to be there for each other to lift each other up and grow and advocate for each other and stuff like
Actually,
that. Right?
we practice that here in South Florida.
Exactly.
Wellness.
Right. So yeah, I love this. Another one to talk about: resilience and hard work. Latinos are kind of known as the people who will. Nobody else wants to do the job. Hire a Latino because they're going to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a special and important thing to mention because it's that method and value that kind of like we were talking about sometimes can be good and sometimes can be bad. Oh, I never see my dad. I only see my dad on Saturdays because he has to work Sunday through Friday over like 2 cities away in construction. But, he's hard. He has to do it, right? Right?
That's it.
So it can be a double thing as well in that regard. And I saw that in I don't want to put his business out there, but a close friend of mine, I saw it with his family where mom had to take care of 4 kids by herself during the week, take them to school, walk them to school every day, walk them back. They didn't have a car. She was one of those stay-at-home moms because she needed to be. Because if she wasn't, nobody was going to take care of the kids. And dad would come Saturdays super late at night, and then Sunday be there. He'd be sleeping all day, so he would barely interact with the kids. And then Monday go back to work in 4 or 5 cities away, 8-hour drives. So it's like, again, it can be a positive, but it also can be a negative, right? So, but however, how can we reshape it in a way that's going to be positive for our community?
positive, negative, depends how you look at it, right, Gigi? How you look at it. If that's being done, how it's always been, if it's out of necessity, okay? If Papa is the breadwinner and he needs to work that long, that many hours, 2 cities away, he needs to do it. The negative, if he's doing it to get away from the family.
Exactly.
If he's a workaholic, that's his addiction. That's her addiction.
Depends
That's
on the
different.
reason.
It depends on the reason. If it's out of necessity, it's like Little House on the Prairie, right? If Papa or whatever had to go off in those times, they had to go where the work was, okay? That's necessity. If Papa wasn't gonna do it, then family was gonna starve, okay?
That's correct.
That's what I'm saying. You have to be careful how we've been brainwashed to things, or the intent. What do we always say? It's the intent. Am I doing this and then telling you, oh, I have to do it, hun? Oh, I can't. No. He's doing his thing for whatever reason, and now the family's getting neglected. But if the breadwinner, let me be careful, has to go away for that period of time out of necessity, because things are going to turn bad for them at the home base. That's a difference. You know, you have to distinguish why things are done, what the intent is behind it.
And the circumstances.
And that's just the thing. Yes, the circumstances. That's when mom has to pick up the slack, unfortunately. It's life. Pop wants to be there. He misses his kids. He misses his wife. I have to be here. I'm the lion. I'm the conqueror. This is the role that I play.
Correct.
And then mom is the pillar at home. It's not, oh, I'm submissive. She's the pillar. That's her role in it. That's the synergy that's created. That's the balance. But like I say, it's a negative thing if the intent is
wrong.
wrong.
Correct.
Okay?
Okay.
Because that's a big thing. How many people have we known, or I've known, that all they do is work? It's the overtime. It's the overtime. No, they're running away from that. Maybe you shouldn't have helped create that. Why are you running away from that?
Yeah, that's true.
Why? Maybe you can receive services from us. You have things to work out. That's my thing. It's always about the intent.
Yeah.
Because people do suffer.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I really appreciate that point of view because I think it's very valid. My biggest thing, however, is that, and I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who studies child development and adolescent growth. It's far more detrimental for the child to not have both figures in the circle. Is it detrimental to the point where the child can't succeed? No. Child can't succeed with only one parent in the picture. However, there are certain lessons that both parents need to give the child. And I saw it in my own life, where for 7 years, I did not have a father in my life. And in ways that I'm not going to really get into for time, I've seen how that affects me even to this day. My psychology, the way I make decisions, the way I think about life, the way I want to be different for my kids if I ever have kids, right? Where now I'm going to be in the idea like I kind of want to go to the baseball games and I want to go to the basketball games because my dad couldn't go because he was working. Yeah. Or my mom couldn't go because she was working, right? I want to make sure that I'm putting my little tip in the jar to help develop my kids instead of my grandparent, his or her grandparents, which was my experience, right? So although your perspective is 100% fair and 100% real, I do think that both can be true.
Yeah, I think it's a balancing act. It has to be a balancing act at the end of the day. I mean, if you want to have perfect kids, which there's no perfect kid,
right? Yeah,
you're going to have to do
perfect parents either.
Exactly,
no perfect kids, no
you're going to have
parents.
to take
Absolutely.
perfect measures to do that. And again, that's not a thing.
It's not possible.
So, like, let's say Remind me of the topic. I just had ADD. I have so many thoughts.
No,
running
it's
through my
okay.
head.
We're talking about the idea of resilience and hard work. It's a positive, but it can also be a detriment. Both are true. Parents going away for work, not being able to be there for their kids to help them grow up.
Yeah. So I was trying to counter both of your points. Yeah, what Ed's saying is completely true. It's completely valid. I mean, my dad literally lives in Georgia right now. He works in Georgia. He drives down every other week to see us for one day, and that's a sacrifice to his family to be able to make money, to be able to take care of us, to be able to give us the life that we want.
Yeah.
So I'm literally living it. With that being said, your point is you need that balance of actually being there, to physically, emotionally, and mentally being there for your child. And I 100% agree, because I've been on that opposite spectrum as well, where I haven't had my father. And I've completely noticed things in my life where I've completely struggled, my lack of accountability, lack of just doing things that to me are masculine mindset things that I never learned from my father. And I look back in my life now and I'm like, damn, if I would have learned those lessons, I don't know where I would have been now.
Yeah.
You
Who
know,
knows?
but that's not to look back on life and regret and things like that. But it's saying that's the balance you need with your father.
Yeah.
And I think you need that balance also with your mother, of course. And then we
Absolutely.
talked about that. And he talked about having the pillar at home. And I think that's where it becomes a balancing act of, and especially in the modern world where nowadays people can't work one job, make 60K and take care of their family. It's just not a
It just
thing.
doesn't happen, yeah.
Nowadays, you need to make 100K plus to take care of kids.
Yeah.
If you have kids, 100K plus.
And like we say, y cuidado, and be careful, because sometimes that's not even enough.
Exactly. 100%. It's not enough, depending where you live. If you're in Florida, it's probably not enough.
Probably not enough, correct? Yeah.
Especially if you want to live a lavish lifestyle. Everybody does. We're all on social media. We want to live how people want to live.
Of course.
So now you have wives having to take jobs, or if they don't want to take jobs, the dad has to take a bigger job or more hours.
Or
and that's
two
when
jobs.
Or two jobs. And that's when you have that lack of them being an actual physical pillar in the house.
Yep.
And that's where it becomes a point where you have to have that relationship with your wife or your partner to be like, hey, I need you to come and answer my shortcomings with the family.
Absolutely.
I can't be here. The same way my mom does it with Peter.
Yeah,
he can't be here all the time. So my mom has to hold down the house mentally and emotionally. And when he can be here physically, then he'll do what he can. So I think it really is a balancing act, and I think that's the hardest part of being a parent.
Yeah.
Or an adult in general, is balancing that part of your life.
Yeah.
Because we all want to have fun. We all want to do things. We all want to take days off and do stuff like that. So imagine you have all these responsibilities. You're taking care of kids, and then at the same time, you have people ridiculing you for saying like you're not spending enough time. It's just it's really hard, and I don't think it's fair for anybody to judge anyone's situation, because every situation.
I agree.
Every situation is
100%.
It's
That's
a
what
one
I'm
for
gonna
one. It's a one for one.
I want to share this. What about those parents or those kids that they have the parents and their parents are absent? Like they're there, there's supply for you, but there's no attachment.
100%.
There's not connection.
Dad,
100%.
Dad flies planes. Mom is a nurse that works night shifts. Like both, the nanny's the one raising the kids. But what you tend to see in a lot of cases is we see a result. Kids.
I'm gonna open another window for you guys, that you young generation. Can we avoid traumas? I think as a human being, we need the traumas, because the traumas is the point that make us grow and evolve and learn. So we can avoid traumas. What we need to do is, okay, what I'm going to do with this trauma? Let me heal, let me fix it, let me grow, let me see what I learned from that. Like use resilience. How do you say?
Resilience,
Yeah,
Resilience,
use resilience.
Yeah, I think that's
To move forward. Because if you stay there on the trauma,
you become
which
complacent.
is everybody
I agree.
are going to have traumas, everybody.
Yeah.
You need to move forward. So you need to face the trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and everybody's gonna because not everybody have those parents that are gonna be there for them, supply for them, emotionally, spiritually, connected with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's always gonna be something from the parents that it's gonna affect the kids.
Yeah.
So we need to do is we're gonna be improving as a human being. I know that, and we are, but we need to see traumas as a step to grow.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think trauma is a big misconception. I don't think trauma is. You could say trauma, and you think trauma. Oh my God, that's a big part of my life, or I was hurt, but at the end of the day, trauma's a life. It's a learning lesson. It's a life lesson. It's
I
going through
see,
something.
listen, I'm another generation. I see now with the young parents, they want to be such a good parent.
Yeah, okay.
They're messing up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they want to be so perfect, and there's no perfect parents.
So to your point,
they're always gonna be something like you're not gonna like from your dad or your mom, you know. So what I say, you have to do what you have to do, and we have a manual to learn. I call the book, which is the Bible. I mean, there is a manual there that you can learn how to be a better parent, but everybody's gonna have their traumas.
Can I ask you then, if that is true, can I ask you the opposite question then, which is, as a parent, don't you want to try to minimize
can I touch on what I was going to say? Can I say what I was going to say? Literally, I was going to say that point, because as much as I think it's important to make your child aware of the fact that there's going to be traumas, I think it's your job as a parent to help your kids avoid trauma as much as possible. We don't want our kids to go through trauma. But with that being said, you go to school, you go through things, you do. I'm saying a parent is not going to bring trauma to you should not be bringing trauma to your child. You shouldn't be making your child feel a certain way. You shouldn't be arguing with each other and making them feel that way traumatic.
Right.
But a kid's going to go through, any human's going to go through traumatic events in life.
Of course.
9/11 happened. We all went through it. That's a traumatic event.
Absolutely.
Do we have to go through it for it to be traumatic? Absolutely not. So I think it's important for a parent or a person in general to explain that life isn't always going to be perfect. It isn't always going to be pretty. It isn't always going to be what you expect of it. And that's where trauma could be developed for some people.
Yeah.
And it's up to that person to have that interpersonal strength and that that discipline within self to not let things drive them to throw their whole life in array because of traumas. You know, I think traumas is a big trigger.
I was about to say that. I think we need to be careful how we use the word trauma, because trauma and problems is not the same thing. In life, I go through many problems. In life, I don't go through many traumas.
100%. Like my dad leaving when I was 6 and telling me he was going to be back next weekend was traumatic for me.
Absolutely.
And that's something subconsciously was traumatic for me for years. 15, 20 years until now I'm like, yeah, that really messed me up, you know, subconsciously. But that's traumatic. Not like, oh, my brother, he pulled my pants down or something. That's a problem that we need to deal with. It's not traumatic, you know? So I think 100%
and again, it can be traumatic for what's traumatic for you. It might not be traumatic for the other person, right? Like if my brother pulled my pants down in public, I'm going to punch him in the face. That's what I'm going to do.
That probably wasn't the best example, but...
no, but I that's the point that I'm making.
What you mean is we try to minimize, like you said, the trauma.
I think we need to be careful with the wording that we use.
Yes, as we growing, we as a human being, we've been evolving and growing. It's gonna be better. But always gonna be trauma.
The same way you mentioned about.
We can't avoid that.
We can't avoid trauma.
Because, like you said, things that affect you, maybe it's not gonna affect you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
I just because right now as we were talking about it, that thought just kept rolling in my head. Like, but trauma is such a powerful word. You know, I saw someone die in the middle of the street. That's traumatic.
Yeah.
You know, my dog passed away. Maybe for me that's not very traumatic, but for Steve, hyper traumatic.
Yeah, it's all relative.
That was the first and only death he saw in his life, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to be careful how we use trauma. But I do agree with the statement, we're all going to face problems and we need to learn resilience, which comes back to what we're talking about. You know, what lesson can we learn from a lot of Latino people is that through that, despite there being some negatives in there, resilience is important. How can we grow out of that? Which I want to kind of keep going here. The third one that I was able to find was warmth and hospitality. There's a lot of Latinos and Hispanic people that share a lot of warmth and a lot of hugs and a lot of, I love the besitos sometimes. Like,
oh my God.
I can meet any Puerto Rican person if I know them or not, and I know they're going, mi amor, como moi. You know,
that was the scariest thing for me when I moved to like South Florida, because I went to black schools notoriously all my life. So I came to South Florida, started going to school over here, start meeting the girls. I
Yeah.
was so awkward for me.
Yeah.
I'm a 13-year-old kid, and now I gotta kiss girls on the cheek. I'm like, do I smell good? Like,
Yeah.
do I look okay?
I've
I
bumped
was so insecure
so many
about
cheeks
that.
in my life, and I know that sounds wrong.
Oh, for sure.
But like, I don't
I
know.
smacked my jaw on their face.
Yeah, I don't know the number of times. I literally cannot quantify it. I don't know how many times I've kissed people in the cheek. Bro, my uncle. That's one of the things like, oh, como está? Mwah. And I'm like,
Yeah. Are you going for that awkward
Don't
cheek
do
hug
that.
kiss? You going for that cheek kiss hug thing? You're like, what are we doing here? Bump it. And
But
then it's just like,
warmth and hospitality is a big thing. We talked about Thanksgiving and Christmas, how a lot of Latinos, if there's one person who doesn't have family, come home. Yeah, we got food. It might not be your style, but
I want to share something very
Please do.
particular one. You know that in this culture in America, in United States, when somebody's sick, people don't go there. Don't
Yes.
come because I'm sick.
yeah, don't come because I'm sick.
Or whatever. In our culture, we don't do that. Oh, you're sick. I'm gonna go there and bring you
Yeah.
soup.
I'll bring you
or
Vicks.
something to eat.
We'll
or
be
make
there in
you
that
tea.
room with you.
You know, that's something
Under
different,
6 feet.
From the,
That's true. You're not wrong there. Abuela's sick, so let's just stay in the living room. Let's not go to the room.
So for me, that was one of the things that shocked me. You know,
Yeah.
like why?
Yeah, culture shock.
I mean,
yeah.
family parties over the years. I mean, throughout the years, I've had friends and black friends, white friends. There's no other friends that I have other than Spanish friends that every year, every birthday, every Christmas, every New Year, they throw family parties. Every single time, every Noche Buena, they are always together with all their family. It's like a family reunion every time.
Noche
They
Buena.
have 12 family reunions a year.
12.
And
easy.
it's insane to see that level of commitment to be together.
Yeah.
Because like, I ain't gonna lie, it's hard for me and to get together with my families once a year for Christmas. We're all like,
Yeah.
we gotta take pictures, we gotta wear the same pajamas. Like that. I know my Spanish friends, dude. Hey, my mom said I gotta be here. We gotta be at dinner. I gotta meet, because you know how like a lot of Spanish people, they'll have like their friends will be. Their parents will be friends, you
Yes,
know? And that's
sure.
another thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
My friends' friends, their parents will be friends. And it's like a generational friendship.
Yep.
That's a big thing I've noticed, is that generational friendship. And I see it and I'm like, dude, they make plans to do dinner once a week and then they have this and a birthday party. And it's like,
Always,
there's
yeah.
so much socialness
Well,
in
that's
the
what we do, man.
there's strength in community.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It reminds me, like you said, the community. It reminds me when I was when I was in church and we had a very big church presence and we went to a lot of church things. It literally reminded me of how the Spanish community is.
Because
Yeah.
we were created to be in a community.
Absolutely.
what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to pause for a second because you mentioned a word that and as soon as you said it, I was like, I want to talk about this. Specifically you, because you and I, we come from the island. You come from, remind me again? Dominican Republic. I come from Puerto Rico. When you moved to the States, was there any moment of culture shock for you? Anything that like, oh, this is vastly different from the way we do things?
What I said about when people were, get sick, that why I can't go there? No, I go. Don't worry, I take care of you. That was something, but not like a real shock because, like I told you, my family moved when my dad and my mom got divorced. I was 13 years old. My father moved to New York. So I always traveling, you know, and visiting my family, my uncles, my grandmother lived here, you know. So I was used to the. My husband, yes, my husband lost 36 pounds because he had problem with the
Eating the food.
with the habit of eating like at the time, you know. In the island we eat at noon, and everybody sit on the table and share. And have like after that maybe they can have a nap or
I have
whatever.
heard that Americans eat dinner late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I eat at like 6:30, 7 dinner.
Yeah, it's
Or
different.
later sometimes.
Yeah.
So-
you know what's for me? Back in California, the biggest culture shock for me was when I went to school. I went to high school in California. And in Puerto Rico, our English class is what normal American studies consider Spanish class. Sit down, dictionary, vocabulary.
To pass the subject. That's
right,
it,
to pass
yeah.
subject. In Puerto Rico, it's the complete opposite. My Spanish classes were the English classes of America, Spanish literature, writing, essays. So that was a huge culture shock because I've spoken English my entire life. I was always getting straight A's in English. My mom taught me to be bilingual from a young age. I mean, I was born in California, but I studied in Puerto Rico basically all middle school and a little bit of high school. So when I came to the States and I'm like, oh shoot, I got to learn English the way I used to learn Spanish and learn how to write. Oh, that was so hard. I sucked. When I started, I sucked writing essays because it was like I'm so used to the Spanish format. And now I got to translate all that. And
It is so backwards.
it was such a culture shock.
Because it's
Talking
like
about-
subjects.
Yeah, it's just
Subject
it's
first,
opposite, right? And then I have to, instead of critically thinking English, I now have to critically think in Spanish, which doesn't seem like that hard. But when you sit down and you're reading like The Great Gatsby, Othello, and I'm like, Shakespeare, bro.
Right.
When I had to read Shakespeare, I felt like my world was crumbling. Because like, where art thou? I'm like, what is art? What is art? I don't know. And I would ask my professor, sir, what is art? And he was like, you gotta look for it. You gotta look for it on the dictionary. I'm like,
That's it.
you're no help. You know?
up.
So it's like,
That's how you
that was a
learn.
big culture
I mean,
shock.
Yeah,
even
let me-
Americans struggle with English. That's why we don't do it the right way either. We speak the most broken form
Yeah,
of
we're
English
dumb.
ever. Yeah, like
That's true.
Like Jamaicans, patois, that's closer to real traditional English.
Patois?
And same with England. They speak more traditional English, like
It's their
proper
language.
English. Yeah, it's their language.
It comes from there.
That's
yeah.
more proper than the way
You
we
Spaniards
speak.
speak
It's
funny.
like us.
Really? It's
It's
our
like
language.
us Spanish from Spain. You know,
You speak with more of like the S.
we cut words. We cut all the words.
yeah.
Talking about shocking, I have another.
Please do, please. This is one of my favorite
funny.
topics.
You know, when we came every weekend, I was calling my brother. Hey, we're gonna have a sancocho here. We're gonna cook this weekend. All the weekends. After 3 months, we noticed like, wait a minute, nobody is inviting us. So
And that's what I'm saying about the get-togethers.
you know,
This is not a
yes,
thing.
Exactly.
This is not a
That,
thing.
that was a shock for me because I'm
Yeah.
a very. I like friendship. I'm very
Imagine how
family-oriented.
many more people in life, in relationships in life, you're gonna make by doing that weekly, monthly,
Correct.
daily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Spending time with people like that versus like, bro, like I'm not even like a
You don't need
antisocial-
therapy. You don't need
I'm not an
therapy.
antisocial person at all. But my family, we never do anything like that ever. So I'll probably go to a party 3 times a year, and you know whose parties are? My Spanish friends. And that's just how it is.
That's
Imagine
like-
people
that's a
like
month.
That. You like
and
it,
I
right?
love it. But imagine the people that aren't in Miami, that are in Arkansas, in random places that maybe don't have that culture. They just come home from work, they drink, go to sleep, do the same thing again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where these
Rinse and
cultures.
repeat.
Routine.
That's where these cultures of people that are coping with alcohol, drugs, different things because they have no community.
You see, he has a point there.
There you go. There you go.
No,
Yeah.
most people that have communities, they don't go get effed up. Yeah, they do it sometimes with those people because
To
it's
have
fun.
fun, to
It's
have
to
fun.
have fun.
It's not as
Yeah.
prevalent.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's to have fun. Exactly. It's not as prevalent, but it's to have fun. It's not to cope.
Yes.
It's not to get them away.
Yes.
It's the intentions,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Be more
right.
open
yeah.
to see people. Absolutely.
Yes.
Respeto or respect to elders is the next one I have on my
Oh, yeah.
list.
To the white hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're not supposed to speak to grandma that way, Christian. Come on, you know better. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but she pissed me off. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, grandma, I don't want to eat this. No, mijo, here you go. Here's some
I
grandma.
I think a lot of
Still
Spanish
I
culture
practice
things
that.
come back to tradition. I think it comes back to tradition a lot of times for Spanish culture.
That was a huge culture shock for me because in Puerto Rico we have the culture where you never talk back to grandma.
Yes.
You never say anything to grandpa. And I moved to the States and I met some people that I'm not going to name because I know they'll listen to this podcast. But I met some people and in the way they interacted with their grandparents, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I told my wife, I was like, baby, like this is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, I would never, me telling be quiet to my grandma.
No, that's
I feel the chancla flying from my mom's house right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't do that, bro. And when I saw people, and it's not just in I've seen it in American cultures too. There's a lot of people that don't respect their grandparents. And I immediately, like, I get cringe. I, like, churn and, like, I just can't deal with it.
So
But-
we do the opposite. We do the opposite. Yeah, we respect.
Yeah,
elders.
I feel that we have a way of just respecting our elders, you know? And I don't know if that's necessarily more of a good or a bad thing, or if there's any negatives
It's so
to
funny.
that.
I was gonna say that. It goes back to my point. Sometimes it could be for a good reason and bad reason. But
Exactly.
you know what? I'm a firm believer. If as long as they're respecting and staying in line, who gives a damn what the reason is?
There you go.
True.
I don't think you should be rude, and I don't think you should be a course like that kind of individual with your children.
You can-
But if that's how they have to learn, it's
Yeah.
better that than a disrespectful child.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Doesn't mean I'm saying go beat your children, but if they need a little bit more discipline, need to be a little bit more strict, a little bit more on top of them, that's the necessary evils in order to avoid having a kid that's
True.
No problem. Yeah. The next one is sense of community, but I feel we've talked about that pretty well.
music
I want to leave you with
culture.
this one.
No
for the
music culture?
We're gonna get to that.
That's my favorite
Yeah,
part
talk
about
about that.
Spanish.
Talk about
I
that.
Well,
think that's my favorite part.
We'll get
about
to that in a
Spanish
minute.
culture.
I want to kind of end on that note
Yeah,
because
go
I
ahead,
feel
bro.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah.
I want to talk about. There's another one that when I read it, I didn't believe it, but I was like, oh, this could be a good conversation starter. Adaptability and multiculturalism. I think that's actually very interesting about the Latino perspective. How we have to learn
Assimilate into
how to
different cultures?
assimilate into different cultures.
definitely see that.
Like I had to learn how to be Californian. I had to learn how to be Floridian. And I know that doesn't seem like, oh, it's just American culture. It's a mountain
It's
of
true.
different culture.
That's a great point you
I
made.
had to.
I've never heard of that.
In Puerto Rico, I never once had to pick up the Declaration of Independence. Are you kidding me? And when I got to California, I had to learn that stuff backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Who wrote it? The Federalist Papers. I didn't have to learn that in Puerto Rico. I had to learn the Puerto Rican version of that, right? So it's very interesting how Latinos, we come into America, and not saying it's a bad thing. I actually think it's a very positive thing. We have to learn how to adapt and learn different cultures. In Florida, this is like Venezuelan, Cuban, Dominican, Jamaican, Haitian. You think I knew what Patois was before I moved to Florida? No. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I think that's a really cool thing. Is that as Latinos, we're forced, in a good way, to learn about other people, which helps us be less egocentric, in my opinion, because we're forced to learn about other people. You know, when I moved to the States, I never realized what Black culture was until I went to California. I lived in Anaheim. I associated with a lot of Black people from the West Side and all that kind of jazz that came with that. And I got to see with my own eyes what it looks like. Maybe I don't know what it feels like because I'm not that, but I know what it looks like. And that's really cool. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think Black culture, I think minority culture in general, they're all very similar in general. Speaking upon Black people, I think we're the closest to not being a minority, really, as far as the way we think and entitlements. I think Black people, not to be rude, are very entitled when it comes to that minority population compared to others. I think there's a lot more outspokenness as opposed to their lack of equality or for reprimands and things like that, which is crazy. Versus a lot of other communities, and that's why, I say all the time, like Spanish communities are probably the most adaptable and quietly adaptable community minority. They will come in, they'll do a job, they'll be quiet about it, and they'll just go about the business and level up.
And
there are other communities, Asian, Indian, also for sure. I think that are
that's true.
definitely adaptable and probably just as quiet. But I think Spanish culture, especially the biggest thing is the amount of people that come. There's so many Spanish people that come into our country yearly, and the fact that you don't really hear that, the amount of noise they're making about their lack of chances. You never hear that. You never hear Spanish people complaining about lack of opportunities or needing more or needing reprimands or needing this or needing that because they didn't have it. You never hear that, but they are probably the people that come into this country the most every year,
Yeah, very interesting.
Because it's less indoctrination.
100%.
Okay,
It's true.
that's the whole thing. It's what over time certain communities have been
Programming.
born into.
100%.
This is just how things are done. No, they're not.
Yeah.
So at least in our cultures, I mean, I'm American.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Whole
you-
multiculturalism. I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
I knew everybody.
Yeah.
I knew Irish, Italians,
you knew
Russians,
everybody.
everybody all over the Caribbean.
That's a true melting pot.
all
New York. Yeah.
over Europe. It wasn't forced. It was all there out of necessity.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's okay. That's the biggest thing for me. Okay. That's the biggest thing. Anyway.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I'm gonna go off. And
No. I appreciate your perspective, both of your perspectives, because I think that's some
It
interesting.
doesn't have to be the how resilient we are.
I think that has part to do. That's why when I mentioned this point,
I think to Ed's point, sorry to cut you off. I think to Ed's point, what he's also saying is like, back to the household. It's when you think of a lot of minorities that are coming from Spanish countries, they're coming from very bad places where a lot of bad policies, bad government, bad things are happening in
that's
life.
true.
So you're not gonna come here and complain about dumb
No.
things like that.
No.
Versus what he's saying, indoctrination. Most black people are from here, from America already. You know, the people that are black people that are coming from other countries, Nigeria, those people are successful.
Yeah.
They have no issues.
The
They come
African
here
Americans,
and
yeah.
they adapt the same way that minority,
Yes,
Spanish,
yes.
Indian, they're the same way. I don't associate African blacks with black at all. It's completely different.
Which is
because of the level of
interesting.
entitlement.
which is interesting
and
because not
indoctrination.
everybody in our society sees it that way. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people definitely that will say if your skin is black, you're black, but that's ignorant in general itself because
Yeah.
you go to your country,
Correct.
Dominican Republic, how many people are black? Probably most.
look Dominican, actually.
100%. I get Dominican
Pablo.
more than any race ever.
Papo,
Yes.
I get
you look Dominican.
more
Let
than
me tell
black
you.
all the time. So like,
You look
Este no
Dominican.
tigre,
but
no
that,
tigre.
right here.
but that just makes my point. You go to Dominican Republic, and most people look like me.
Yes, they do.
Versus
Yes.
Kayla or
Especially the
light
Dominican
skin, you know?
Republican, yeah.
Yeah.
Even in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, where it's a more lighter,
Yeah.
there's tons of black people there.
Bro,
Colombia, tons of black people.
After this episode, I'm gonna show you 3 people. I'm gonna show you my mother. I'm gonna show you one
oh,
of
I've
my.
seen your mom's. Your mom's like literally my color.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna show you one of my best friends from elementary school, Samuel. Shout out if you're watching this. I don't think so, but so. And then I'm gonna show you another friend called Kasem, and I'm gonna show you those 3 pictures. One of them is Asian Puerto Rican, one of them is white Puerto Rican, and the other one is black Puerto Rican. And let me tell you guys, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
You-
But even that causes problems.
100%
in the island.
You know how I found out that
Inner racism
that
is real.
That blackness doesn't make you black. Bro, go watch a soccer game. Everyone has black people on their team.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw a tweet like
They're the
6
best.
months ago, and it was like, "Ain't no way!" And there's like a guy in Slovakia now. There's a black soccer player on the Slovakian soccer team.
He's Slovakian.
He's Slovakian.
Nice.
So it just shows you there's black people all over the world. We have absolutely gotten to every we've
Every continent.
We're there. The way people didn't want race mixing and they wanted things to be pure. Black people said no.
Well,
we're gonna be in every race, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that black
Absolutely.
people. I want black people to be with Slovakians, and I love that because I hate racism. I hate that black people
Me
think they need to be black people. I hate that white people think they need to be white people. I think everybody
Yeah.
should be with whoever they desire to be with. That
Well,
you find common
that
things
is
with.
that is my hope and my faith is one day the planet Earth we're not gonna have race. We are gonna be human.
Definitely a big hope.
That's
Human
it.
beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
It
it.
all starts
Good
from
luck,
the home.
Gigi.
It all
Good
starts
luck.
from the home.
But
Huh?
Good luck.
Yeah.
It all starts from the home.
I agree with that mentality of human, but it goes perfectly. I want to use this as a bridge for the last point. I agree. All of us are human, but there's beauty in celebrating our culture. Cultural pride is the last
Yeah.
point I have.
Yeah.
I think that visually, we should all look at each other the same way, but we should also love our culture.
Of course,
Absolutely.
man.
Yes,
Ain't
and-
nothing wrong
and
with it.
enjoy
There's
it.
nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
It's not about,
Yeah.
about us saying or me saying, because that's a big
Right.
thing, even with the Hispanic community, that we think we're better than that other community.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the thing.
Because
That's-
Oh,
of.
yeah.
Because of.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
the issue.
shut
I've
up.
met Puerto Ricans who maybe hate is a strong word, but have some strong opinions about Cubans, have strong opinions about Dominicans, have some strong opinions about Spaniards, about Venezuelans. Even Puerto Ricans have strong feelings about people
In
who
Puerto Rico.
In Puerto
In
Rico.
certain cities. In
In
certain cities.
That's
Yeah.
what I
And
say.
people who move away
It's that
from Puerto
elitism
Rico, the
mentality.
diaspora Puerto Ricans or
Yeah.
the American Puerto Ricans. Oh, don't you get a Puerto Rican started on that?
Boricua.
They hate it. But that's the point that I'm trying to make is that, and I love your perspective. We're all human. Like, why have we gotten to a point, even in our own countries, where we, instead of celebrating our culture, like and I'm going to throw myself under the bus right now because I'll be the first to say I constantly make fun of my Nuyorican brothers and sisters. Constantly. Because one of my best friends, his name is Sam, he's Nuyorican. He visited the island a couple of times, but he was raised in New York, in Manhattan. So
There's a lot of Puerto Ricans
constantly,
in New York.
constantly make fun of him because he's not Puerto Rican, he's New Yorican. But even now, I myself have to be like, well, that's not fair because he's just as Puerto Rican as I am.
I want to interject.
Please do.
I don't call myself Puerto Rican. I'm American.
There you go.
Me too.
I am of Puerto Rican descent. My parents are Puerto Rican. They were born on the island. Even my mom would tell me, Eddie, you're not Puerto Rican. I'm not, but I'm of Puerto Rican descent. I was born in New York. I'm a New Yorican. I'm American.
Yeah.
That's why Ed is so patriotic. I'm a patriot.
But think about it this way.
This is who I am.
That's your decision. That's the point that I'm going to. Why do I have to disrespect you? Because that's your decision.
Exactly.
That's the point that I'm trying to make. If you want to identify as American, New Yorican, Puerto Rican, that's on you. Who
But
am I?
Right.
It doesn't matter either. If it depends how you
Well,
consider.
maybe to you it doesn't matter, but for a lot of people it does, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Is how can we break that stigma to be like,
It's a
hey,
stigma,
it's okay. It's okay if we come from different parts.
Yeah, we in the first part of this podcast.
Yeah.
we started talking about discrimination, and like I say, discrimination is a human. It's a human.
Experience.
Trait.
Human trait.
No, it's a yes. It's a human issue. It's a human thing. It's not American. It's not Puerto Rican. It's not from Europe. It's a human. How you say?
trait.
Yeah.
Human quality.
Quality
Yeah.
trait. Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to work on that and
I agree.
respect everybody from every country and enjoy it. You have things that say, well, you were born here, but you were raised in.
Yeah, I consider myself Puerto Rican.
In your heart is divided. We have to be honest with that. My kids, they were raised here, but they were born in DR, Dominican Republic. Their heart is divided,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
I think it's
not a problem with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they enjoy over there our culture, but they enjoy here too.
Right.
You know, so
But
there's
it-
not discrimination like they're less or they're more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the thing that we need to go and look for.
But
know?
I would also argue and say it's all about identity, because if we're talking about lineage is what makes you what you are, then I am half Puerto Rican, half Salvadorian, but I know nothing about my Salvadorian side
Exactly.
because I never met my biological father. So I grew up for 10 years in Puerto Rico. I went to school. I made friends. My family's still over there.
That's what
You
you
have
Right.
a piece
identify
of
with.
your heart there.
My heart has always been Puerto Rican. Even if I was born in California, I lived there for 4 years, moved to Puerto Rico, lived 10 years, and moved back to the States.
Yeah.
So my heart of hearts is
That's who you
always
are.
going to be Puerto
That's who you
Rican.
are.
Yeah.
Right? And going back to what I was saying earlier, who am I to say that, for example, Ed, what are you talking about? You are Puerto Rican. Your parents are Puerto Rican. If you identify as American, that's what I should call you. You're an American person. You know?
Correct.
And
I just don't. You're right. Neither one takes away from the other. That's just the thing.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Like you calling him that doesn't mean he's not Puerto Rican, and you calling him Puerto Rican doesn't mean he's not American.
Exactly.
But it's your choice. That's the point that I'm going
That goes to my point though too. I was trying to make. It all comes down to an elitist mentality. It's like a competition. I want to be the best race, and that's where that mentality comes from. And Morgan Freeman, he was asked a long time ago in an interview, and they asked him, they're like, "Why don't you celebrate Black History Month?" And he's like, "Why should my history be relegated to 1 month?"
That's me.
And it's why should his history be relegated to 1 month? Why should Black people have to everything we've been through 1 month? We're gonna celebrate, and then we drop it. We've talked about this,
Yeah.
And then he asked the guy, he was a white guy, and he said, well, how would you like it if we celebrated the Jewish people for 1 month? And he said, would you like it? No, absolutely, I don't want it. And he's saying right there in that point is, when you start making things about color, what do people see? Color, So if I keep calling you an African American, you keep calling him a Puerto Rican, you keep calling her or Dominican? You're Dominican?
Dominican, yes.
If you keep calling her Dominican, we're all going to be different races, and we're all going to be trying to separate each other all the time. Instead of being like, that's a person, that's an American, or whatever it is. Instead of just being the ultimate vagueness of who they are, we're so trying to classify people specifically as their race, their height, their whatever they are
and
nowadays.
Their beliefs too.
And their belief, 100%. Like nowadays, literally, we have Tinder profiles. We have height, race, all the things that literally don't matter as to who a person is to qualify them. And that's wrong. Correct. Obviously, that's a dating app, but that's how a lot of things in life are kind of valued, and it's wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Correct.
I 100% agree with you.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, obviously, to kind of start wrapping things up, we're talking about Hispanic. I'm calling it Latino as well. Hispanic Latino Heritage Month. All of us here, even Kayla, who just somewhere, I don't know where she is in space.
She's here. Spirit.
We all, in some way, shape, or form, have had some sort of Latino or Hispanic situationship happen in our life.
Especially in South Florida.
Right? So
it's every day, man.
I do want to say that, although I do understand your point, Michael, I do think that there's something special about giving light to something, the same way that we have. Let's remove race for a second. Let's talk about Recovery Month. Let's talk about Suicide Prevention Month. It's not saying that we shouldn't talk about all these problems the rest of the year, but if we can spend some time focusing on it, it can bring light to the beauty of talking about that.
Let me ask you a question. So let's say Heritage Month is supposed to bring light and stuff like that, and that's the whole point of it. The same way with Black History Month. I think that's important too, to highlight qualities in different communities and different things like that. But it takes on this for certain people it's great, but at least for me, when I'm talking about Black History Month, it takes on this ironic, hypocritical, just opposite of what it's supposed to be kind of thing, because it's supposed to be celebrating the Black people that help us get to where we are,
exactly,
and all the achievements they've made to get to where we are. But a lot of times that's not what it is. It's focused on a lot of the negatives with Black communities, and a lot of the people within Black communities don't want to do it, and then a lot of the people, white people, Hispanic people, they complain about these things happening. So it just becomes an issue, and it just separates people more. And it goes back to my point, balancing act. I think it's completely important for people to acknowledge and celebrate communities, and if that's what they want to do, I always want to be a part of that. I have a lot of Haitian friends that do Haitian independence. If that's what you want, and I'm completely for it, and I'm gonna celebrate it for you. I just think that a lot of times when we make Black people are the worst with it, and I say it as a Black person. We do a lot of things to celebrate Black people, but we exclude everybody else by doing it. And that's creating more of the problem at the end of the day. Do I think that's what Spanish people do or Black people with these months? No, I think it's all about intention with each people. Yeah. So I agree with your point that these months need to happen, but I don't think it's just I don't think it needs to happen for everybody. It's just it's a weird thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't see the purpose to celebrate it?
No, I see the purpose of it. I just don't see the purpose of relegating it to 1 month, saying okay, starting tomorrow, we're going to start celebrating Spanish people, or and then it ends tomorrow, all right, we're done. We don't have to do any more events for this. I just think that's wrong. And it teaches people to we're going to celebrate them next month, and then we're going to celebrate them next month, and then we're going to celebrate them this month, and then
it brings division.
What does that do? It just separates us all, instead of being let's just celebrate everybody collectively every day. And I know that's impossible to do, but that's just what I think would be more beneficial for humanity.
Right.
Well, will happen.
Just to give a different perspective.
No, absolutely.
For me personally, the reason I love celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month is because it's an opportunity for me to live out loud my culture. I do it every day anyways, but it gives me more of a excitement to do it. I'm very proud of being Latino. I'm very proud of being Hispanic, despite the negative history behind it, despite the bad things that happen in the community. I'm proud to be Puerto Rican. I'm proud to be Latino, and more than like I wore the shirt, for example. What is it? Sabor y estilo. You know, it's like I wear Latino stuff. I listen. I eat Latino food. I listen to Latino music, and it's like. It's kind of like the way we celebrate holidays. Is like we can celebrate Christmas all year, really, but we choose a specific time of year to do it.
And you saying that makes me so happy. Honestly, I love to hear that. I guess my mindset comes from seeing perspectives of people that take the opposite view of it.
And I see your point,
and that's
too.
really all it is,
I think that's fair. Like, are we using this time to celebrate the culture or just to feed off that mindset that we're in problems and problems and problems and problems and problems?
Time to exploit, right?
Right? Are we exploiting it? Or are we using this time to truly raise up a voice? Like, let's use Black History Month again. Are we using Black History Month to talk about how awesome Martin Luther King was? Or are we using Black History Month to sell African knitted bags?
That's a big thing.
That wasn't created by 100%. African people. It was created by corporations because they wanted to exploit it.
This is my problem, okay, when celebrating, okay? There's plenty of amazing, influential Puerto Ricans in history that are never spoken about.
Never.
Who are always the ones that we speak about? The ones that mean
Martin Luther Kings.
They mean nothing. They're empty vessels, okay? They're just part of pop culture.
Yeah.
I don't want them representing me. Look at the Pedro Albizu Camposes, right?
Right.
Look at the Roberto Clementes, the polymaths. We don't celebrate them.
Yep.
They were great people.
And
they were
do you feel bad about
humanitarians.
it?
People who cared about the lessers.
Okay?
I think that's my point.
You never hear of them.
Never, ever.
You can't make money off of them.
You can't make money off of that.
They're way too controversial. They thought differently.
But let me tell you
Well,
this.
Puerto Rican, you need to claim for that.
That's
You
what
need
I'm
to fight
saying.
that.
It's like I'm a bust out my Roberto Clemente hat from time to time, you know, just as much as I bust my 42 hat, my Jackie Robinson hat, and people ask me, "Oh, 42, what is that?" "Oh, that's my favorite baseball player of all time, Jackie Robinson, the first African American, or let's be real, he wasn't African, the first Black American to play baseball in the major leagues, and who also was a humanitarian and wanted the best thing for his community."
How many people you think on
that's
Black
the hat
History-
that I'm wearing?
How many people you think on Black History Month know who that is? Or Jesse Owens? Or all these low-key Black people that actually went through the hard times of Black life where people were slaves and went through all the bull crap. But we always hear about the same people all the time. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, which both have massive controversies upon their life and not saying they didn't have movements. They had huge movements in the civil rights, but there's a lot of things that they did that wasn't also said too. So like I think it's back to Ed's point. I think if we're gonna do these things, we need to fully do them. We need to fully say these are the Black people that have done amazing things for our country, and there are so many Black inventors. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the same thing
It's
for Latinos.
unbelievable. Like I can't think of names like off my top of my head, but I was looking at it was like a Twitter page, and it was showing things. It was Black History Month at the time, and it was showing a bunch of Black history creations, and I was like, dude, I have no idea that Black people made these things. And you'll never know. We'll never know, right? But how many Black History Months do we have? We have one a year for the last how many years, and I have no idea who these people are. And that's kind of my issue with it.
Yeah.
But back to your point, it's super important to have community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think both can be true.
Exactly.
I think both can be true. I don't think there's any sense of like animosity here. I think, and as a matter of fact, if we're utilizing this time to truly celebrate what it means to be Latino and like the people who maybe even gave their life for us to be able to have the voice that we have here. Like I can't think of their names, but I'm thinking right now, like I've learned about so many like Latino important people, women who fought for Latino women rights, men who fought for workers' right, and the idea of so many people in Latin countries where they stood up to government oppression and they said, "Hey, everybody, we need to unite as one people because this government is taking control and we can't let that happen." Right? It's happening right now in Puerto Rico. It's happening in Venezuela. Right?
Yep.
It's like. That's what Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month is, to unify us as people, not to separate us. So how do we create unity? By learning together.
And I think that's
by
also,
growing together.
I think that's also goes back to the other point I was saying. Maybe in your point, maybe it comes down to indoctrination. Again, you guys are Spanish communities coming from a bunch of different Spanish countries to another country. A lot of Black people are coming from America.
If that's all you,
America.
if
One
that's all you know,
perspective.
that's all you know.
One perspective,
go.
one culture, one people,
Exactly.
one mind. Right?
So
Whereas
that's why
Latino is like what 18 to 20 something cultures.
And
But
that's why I think Spanish Culture Heritage Month is much more received for the Spanish culture and much more celebrated because it's actually people from different countries coming to one
Yeah.
country and celebrating that. Versus black people, we're all here. We're these black people have always been
You
in
don't
America.
know anything different.
Yeah, we don't know anything different. So it's hard for us to be able to celebrate us ourselves,
Yeah.
essentially.
Gigi, I want to hear your perspective a little bit here.
Well, I'm listening to you and I'm learning, but I think there's some it's a lot of programming and
That's a great word,
indoctrination,
yeah.
like you said, but at the same time I think some of those people they use as a tool to project what they want. So
They're puppets.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to talk about against it, but I see it like maybe that person, they picked that person because it was a voice for that community. In the case of, you were saying Martin Luther King, but there is behind Martin Luther King, it had to be a team that worked with him or work through generations to reach what they reach, free of slavery and more freedom, whatever. It's the same thing in other countries, in Latin American countries. Like I'm going to talk about the island. We have to fight against France and the Haitians because Haitians they governed us for 17 years, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
'cause
to-
Dominican Republic,
Yes,
yeah.
and we have to fight. But that doesn't come from us. We don't have the problem. You know who imposed those problems in our island? The Spaniards and the colonizers.
yeah.
So it's always the same. We're going to the same source.
Yeah.
The same source.
Yeah.
It's the control, the programming, the indoctrination.
since the beginning of
and it's
time.
been,
Always
it's
will
been since the history. It's been like that. But like you say, we should be only one.
Yeah.
That's why I believe in that.
Yeah,
I believe
unifying.
that I can say okay, this is he's black. No. This
You should
is
be only one
Spaniard,
with the respect to your
Spanish.
culture. Because
Yes.
we're all going to die, and what's going to
Culture
happen? It
is
doesn't
cul-
matter what you are.
Listen, culture is like a religion. It is a religion. So we should be united. That's what I think. We should be united and work together. All the Spanish, American, Irish, Italians,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
from Africa, Asians, everybody.
Celebrate who you are. Celebrate your heritage. Celebrate your culture. But don't forget to be one. Be unified
Of
as
course.
people.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the most all those things, do all those things, but at the end of the day, revert back to realizing that we're all one
We're all
person.
one
We're
It's
all
like
one
our body.
human.
It's like our body, We have different
If I cut you, what color is your blood?
Yeah.
What color is your
Yeah.
blood? Red,
Red,
right?
yeah.
Same color as mine.
Exactly, exactly.
There's no
So-
differences biologically between us.
Correct.
Like you,
Correct.
if I took her organs, they wouldn't say Dominican organs.
Exactly.
If I took my organs, they wouldn't say black. They would just say human.
Human.
And that's the thing about me is
Correct.
I just see everything like
You're very
black
advanced.
and
You're
white.
very advanced with it.
No.
That's what it is.
It's not even about that. It's just it's not even advanced. It's simple. It's the simplest way of thinking
because
when you think about
you
it.
see it like that, but people with closed mind, they don't see
Yeah,
it like
yeah,
that.
you being wired
We're
differently,
talking about
too.
like because we want to encourage other people to
Yeah,
open,
yeah.
But know
to
that
open their minds.
know that strength that
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just
Okay.
noticed that the more people, like at least like people that I know and see, the more they find things to separate and differences between each other, the more they're gonna like disagree and try to find arguments. And it's like it doesn't always have to be
That's
that way.
even happened in a marriage,
Oh, 100%.
and
Well,
so
Okay.
I want to thank.
Well, we should have a topic on that. We gotta bring your wife on marriage.
Yeah,
That'd be
she
dope.
she wants to come.
Oh, does she?
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
So, we can talk about
Maybe
that
not talk
another
about
day.
marriage.
But I want to thank both of you for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Yeah,
Ed,
thank you,
Gigi.
guys.
Kayla, she had to step out for a little bit, but thank you to her too, because this was a very important conversation to have. We're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, Latino Heritage Month here in September and a little bit of October. There's all these other things, I feel like every week we're celebrating something else, but at the end of the day, we're celebrating the human experience, know, and I think there's value in doing that. So whether it be Recovery Month, whether it be Suicide Prevention Month, whether it be Black or Hispanic, Latino Heritage Month, celebrate humanity, celebrate life, because it's worth celebrating. You have value as a person. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you can. We love to read your comments and respond. Also, if you're one of our lovely, lovely, amazing audio listeners over at Spotify Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, we see you, we love you, and we thank you for listening. Make sure to give a 5-star rating if you can. It really helps boost the podcast and boost popularity and spread to more places so we can have these conversations with more people and reach more places. Other than that, we will see you all next week. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.